This person has begun to see you in a different way, and it didn't happen overnight. It happened in the silence, it happened in the absence, it happened in the details that used to pass unnoticed and have now begun to weigh on their heart in a new way. What seemed ordinary gained value. What seemed guaranteed became an important memory. And what was once viewed with distraction is now being observed with more depth, with more truth, and with a kind of attention that stirs everything on the inside. If you felt a withdrawal, a strange change in the air, or even that sensation that something is happening even without clear signs, I want to ask you to stay with me until the end, because this message can touch exactly on the point your heart has been trying to understand. There are moments when a person only realizes someone's real value when something inside them matures. This doesn't always happen in the time you wanted. This doesn't always come with fast words, immediate actions, or beautiful declarations. Sometimes this awakening happens slowly, in the midst of silent comparisons, unexpected recollections, and a restlessness that the person themselves cannot explain. And that is exactly what the angels show now. This person has begun to look at you with different eyes, no longer with the superficiality of before, no longer with that distracted, confused, or even complacent posture. Now there is a recognition emerging. There is a more serious, more sensitive, deeper perception. And I'm going to tell you something with all my affection. When this happens, the other person's heart enters into conflict. Because realizing your true value also forces this person to face everything they didn't do, everything they didn't demonstrate, everything they let cool down, and everything they treated as if it was simple, when in reality it was rare. In my view, this is one of the strongest moments within a connection, because it is when the truth begins to tear down the excuses. It is when it is no longer possible to pretend you were just one more. Something in them has begun to understand that you left a mark, that you made a difference, that your presence had an emotional weight that wasn't small, and that your absence did not pass without leaving signs. The angels show that, for a time, this person tried to move on without naming what they felt. Perhaps they thought they would be able to ignore it. Perhaps they believed you would always be there, somehow accessible, emotionally present, energetically close. But now the scenario has changed. And what changed wasn't just around them, it changed inside them. An inevitable comparison arose between what they find in the world and what they found in you. And in that comparison, you began to occupy a very different place from the one you occupied before. Before we continue, write this mantra in the comments. I recognize my worth and receive what my heart deserves. Write it with faith, because when you write, you agree with the truth that heaven wants to strengthen inside you today. This person has begun to see qualities in you that they didn't know how to name before. Your way of caring, your way of giving of yourself, your way of feeling, your way of remaining firm even when you were hurt. And perhaps what stirred them the most was realizing that you weren't just someone with whom they had a connection. You were someone who brought truth, someone who had presence, someone who offered something rare in a world where so many people deliver so little and feel even less. The angels show memories returning to their mind more frequently. Your words, your ways, your reactions. Advice that at the time perhaps wasn't valued. Gestures that at that moment seemed small, but now arise enormous inside the memory. This happens because their soul has begun to revisit your story under another perspective. And when the perspective changes, the person also changes. The look matures, pride shakes, false certainty weakens, and what seemed controlled begins to go out of control. Have you already noticed how sometimes someone only understands who you were after they miss you in a cleaner way? It's not just missing the company, it's missing what you awakened, missing the peace, the listening, the warmth, the true intensity. And that is what the angels are revealing now. This person is beginning to understand that what they found in you wasn't ordinary. And this perception has been deeply stirring their thoughts, especially in the moments when they are alone. Do you know what I think when I hear a message like this? I think that many people only wake up emotionally when the heart stops being fed by distraction, when the silence comes, when the absence tightens, when there is no longer enough noise to hide the truth. And it could be exactly that which is happening here. This person is being forced to feel. They are being forced to review. They are being forced to admit to themselves that they saw you less than they should have, that they understood you less than they could have, and that now they are seeing with more clarity that which before they couldn't or didn't want to see. But that is not all. There is something even more important happening. The angels show that this new way of looking is not coming only with admiration. It is also coming with fear. Because when someone begins to see the real value of a woman, they also begin to perceive the risk of losing her. And this fear has been growing inside them. The fear of you no longer being available as before. The fear of you having changed. The fear that time has messed with your choices. The fear that the chance to approach is no longer as easy as it seemed. Now I want to ask you for something simple but powerful. Write 111 in the comments if you feel that this message is confirming something your heart was already perceiving in silence. The angels say that this person has begun to observe you in another way, even when they try to disguise it. It can be through your changes, your posture, your firmer energy, your more withdrawn way, or even your silence. Yes, your silence also talks. Sometimes it talks more than any explanation, and what this person has felt is that you are no longer in the same place as before. There is a different strength in you. There is a different awareness, and that provoked a deep impact in them. Perhaps they imagined that you would continue waiting in the same way. Perhaps they thought it would be enough to reappear or maintain a minimal presence for everything to continue the same. But time passed, and you are no longer the same in many senses. Even if feeling still exists, there is also more lucidity. And I deeply believe that this changes the way the other person views the woman standing before them. Because a woman who learns her own worth begins to be seen with more respect, with more attention, and many times with a type of admiration that didn't exist before. If this message is doing you good, and if you feel in your heart the desire to support this channel, you can make your donation through the QR code that appears in the video or through the link that is in the description and pinned comment. This gesture helps this word of hope continue reaching more people who also need comfort. The angels show that there is an emotional recognition being born in them, a recognition that perhaps hasn't been verbalized yet, but that is already forming. They began to understand that you weren't an exaggeration. It wasn't too much sensitivity. It wasn't meaningless intensity. You were truth at a level they didn't have the maturity to sustain yet. And this stirs things up, because now this person begins to see that the problem wasn't in you being too much. The problem was in them not knowing how to deal with someone so true. Take a deep breath for a moment and feel this. How many times did you doubt yourself because of the way you were treated? How many times did you try to diminish your light to fit into someone's emotional limitation? How many times did you think you were demanding too much, feeling too much, or expecting too much, when in reality you were only offering a clean love and wanting reciprocity? Exactly. And the angels want you to know, this person's new way of looking doesn't change only what they feel. It also confirms something important for you. It confirms that your value was always there, even when it wasn't recognized at the right time. This person has begun to see with more clarity the difference between a superficial connection and a true bond. And this doesn't happen without internal shaking. Their thoughts have been returning to you more frequently. There are involuntary comparisons. There are recollections that arise out of nowhere. There are moments when they miss you and can't even explain why. Because it is not just about ordinary longing. It is about a belated perception. It is about an emotional awakening. It is about a heart that is beginning to organize pieces that used to live messy. And when this happens, dear, the person enters a delicate phase. They observe more, they think more, they remember more, and little by little they begin to understand that you occupied a larger space than they admitted. You weren't fleeting in the way it seemed. You left marks, you left an echo, you left teachings. You left a standard of presence that now they do not easily find in anyone else. If you are not subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now and stay with us. Here there is always a word of faith, consolation, and direction for the days when the heart needs to breathe a little better. The angels also show that there are silent regrets arising inside them, not necessarily in the format of blatant guilt, but in that painful way of realizing afterward that you were present, realizing afterward that your intention was clean, realizing afterward that you tried, insisted, welcomed, and truly felt. And some things hurt more when the person understands late. Because late understanding brings a heavy weight, the weight of knowing it could have been different. I know that hearing this can stir you in various ways. Perhaps your heart warms up, perhaps it saddens, perhaps it stays divided, and that is fine. Not every spiritual revelation comes only to comfort. Sometimes it comes to place order on what was confused. It comes to return lucidity to you. It comes to show that you didn't imagine everything, that you didn't create value where it didn't exist, that your presence really moved this person and continues moving them now in a deeper way than before. The angels ask that you do not diminish yourself to fit into anyone's new way of looking. This is very important. The fact that this person has begun to see you in another way doesn't mean that now you must run to prove something, explain everything, or place yourself again in the spot of blind waiting. No. Heaven wants you to receive this message with dignity, with calmness, with awareness, with the certainty that being seen with more clarity now doesn't erase that which you needed to endure before. And I'm telling you this because I know that when the heart still loves, it can confuse belated recognition with sufficient change. And it is not always the same thing. The angels are sending you a special sign. Your lucky number for today is 8. Write in the comments, I receive the energy of the angels. My lucky number is 8, and I receive this message with faith. This number speaks of strength, value, return, and balance. It reminds you that what is true finds a way to be revealed. Now the angels show something even deeper. This person hasn't just begun to see you with more admiration. They have begun to see you with more respect. And this carries a very big spiritual weight. Because respect is one of the strongest signs that something inside the person has matured. They are perhaps understanding now that dealing with you demanded presence, truth, emotional responsibility, and since before there wasn't enough structure for that, there was flight, silence, confusion, or distance, except that now their heart can no longer fit you into that old place. You grew in their eyes. And I am going to tell you something that I receive a lot here from those who follow this channel. Many women perceive this change even before any word. They perceive it in the look, in the way the person reappears, in the different energy, in the way their presence begins to hover around again. Because when the heart awakens, the energy changes before the speech changes. And if you have been feeling some subtle movement, do not discard it immediately. There might be more happening than it seems. At the same time, the angels ask that you strengthen yourself emotionally, because seeing you in another way doesn't automatically mean this person already knows how to act the right way. Sometimes the perception arrives before the action. Sometimes the admiration arrives before the courage. Sometimes the regret arrives before complete maturity. And that is why you need to maintain your peace. Do not hand over your center to anxiety. Do not put your entire life on pause, waiting for a movement. Continue caring for yourself. Continue honoring your truth. Continue being this woman who learned to feel without abandoning herself. Now I want to invite you to an exercise of liberation. Write a list in the comments of people, including yourself, whom you would like to forgive. Visualize each of them. Send love and say, "I forgive you and I release you. May peace be with you." Feel the lightness that this brings. Because forgiveness doesn't erase the lesson, but it cleanses the weight that the past leaves in the chest. The angels show that this person has begun to review even what they spoke about you internally. Before, perhaps they interpreted your intensity the wrong way. Perhaps they saw your surrender as something common or even too comfortable to be valued. But now they understand it wasn't about ease. It was about purity. It was about truth. It was about a woman who didn't play games, who didn't measure everything coldly, who felt in a whole way, and that today has begun to gain another meaning inside them. It could be that they are more thoughtful. It could be that they are less secure than they appear. It could be that they are rehearsing approaches, reviewing messages, remembering conversations, trying to understand how they got here. Because there is a type of longing that is not born only from lack. It is born from the belated understanding of the value that was lost or almost lost. And that is a longing that weighs more. Because along with it comes the awareness that you weren't easy to replace, neither emotionally nor spiritually. If you are listening to this right now with a tight heart, I want you to feel one thing. You weren't invisible. You weren't insignificant. You didn't love alone in the vacuum. There was impact. There was a mark. There was presence. And even if the recognition didn't come at the moment you deserved, it has begun to be born, perhaps silently, perhaps slowly, perhaps in a way that hasn't reached you completely yet. But it started. The angels show that heaven is using this situation also to teach you to receive confirmation without losing lucidity. This is very important because the objective of this message is not to trap you in expectation. It is to return awareness to you. It is to make you understand that your value doesn't depend on the other's time. The fact that this person has begun to see you in another way only reveals that which was already true since before. You have a rare presence. You touch deep. You leave marks. You awaken feelings that do not pass easily. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all this is this. You didn't need to transform into another person for this to happen. You didn't need to humiliate yourself anymore. You didn't need to run after them one more time. You didn't need to prove more than you already proved. It was life, it was time, it was silence, and it was God's action that placed this person before the truth. And when the truth arrives, it changes the way one looks. Share this video with 2 dear people who need this message today. And if you can, also leave a prayer for your guardian angel in the comments. Let's form a chain of faith and protection here at this moment. The angels want you to finish this message understanding something essential. This person's new way of looking at you can be an important sign, but the most important sign needs to come from within your own heart. What do you feel when you think about this? Peace or agitation, clarity or lack, security or fear? Ask that question to yourself. Because a woman who knows her own worth doesn't move just because she was finally seen. She discerns, she observes, she feels. She allows the truth to reveal itself fully. I believe in this very much. When God allows someone to begin seeing you in another way, it is not only to stir with the other person's heart. It is also to restore parts of yours that were shaken by the lack of recognition. It's as if heaven said, you weren't wrong about what you offered. You weren't exaggerating in love. You were just being true before someone who didn't know how to see yet. So receive this message with serenity. Receive it without anxiety. Receive it without running ahead of time. What is being shown today is that there was a change in the look, there was movement in the heart, there was an awakening, and that, by itself, already reveals that there is something bigger happening in the invisible realm. Stand firm, continue in peace, continue choosing yourself too. If this message spoke to you, write in the comments. Whoever is meant to see me with truth will find me in my value. Share your experience, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. Thank you for being here with me. May God bless your life, protect your heart, and lead you with peace until the next video.